Your hometown station. I'm Arif Halaby along with Mark Murphy on Total Financial Solutions Save for Money Hour, talking about your family's finances, how to get out of debt, manage money, plan for retirement. Isn't it interesting today that in the total financial life that we all lead, college has become a greater expense? You know, it used to be $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 maybe per year. I know when I went to school, that's what it was, about $2,500 a semester or a year. I don't remember exactly, but I remember that $2,500 figure. Had to work a lot over the summer, and Dad and Mom helped out a little bit, but really at the end of the day, it didn't mean I was going to have to avoid or wait to getting married or avoid buying a home until the rest of the world, financially lined up. It was a minor distraction financially, year, 2, 3, 4, but that was about it. Today, it seems like marriages or the cost of weddings and colleges are the larger expenses, which are, by the way, are not assets as much as people might say. It's generally a liability. You know, the cost of college, you're seeing more and more people not even work in their field. Oh, it's a small trend, I hear. Oh, Arif, it's not that big of a deal. Oh, it will come back. Really? College used to be interesting because not everybody had it. Okay, so prior to that, when we were an agricultural society, it was like, oh, my son dropped out at the 8th grade, but he helps run the farm. Or my daughter, never really completed college or high school. And then the high school diploma became a pretty big deal. Wow, high school diploma, 40s and 50s. And then all of a sudden, education through formal colleges became a big deal, and so people went to college. And in that process, wow, you have a bachelor's degree, you stand head and shoulders above the next. Today, it doesn't seem as important. I don't know, maybe you disagree. You can always give us a call at 298-5487, 298-5487. That's 298-KHTS or 5487. Let us know what you think. We're going to talk about college expenses over the next couple of hours. I think this is important because in your family's finances, this could be one of the larger expenses that you as a couple and or as a young person end up paying. You know, Mark, when you went to school, it certainly didn't cost $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year like it does today.
Well, I'm just finding it fascinating because I remember your $2,500 figure. I think that definitely was a year. And in many cases, that was 2 years.
Yeah.
I have this number in my mind of like 4,500. And we can adjust inflation. The increase in tuition is far exceeding inflation. It's one of the highest numbers you've ever seen. And so our perspective is so different. Yeah. We as parents, we remember our times. As hazy as our times might have been, 60s, 70s. Hey, I remember most of it. And the fact that there's a big gap between the 60s and 70s and today,
yeah,
which makes it even harder to remember. You throw all that in there, it still doesn't make sense. What's going on?
You take a look at some of these university scenarios where they have spas and bowling alleys and full-on country club-like atmospheres to attract people. You see numerous professors, their job is to write papers and do research. Travel, really. So now you have two people doing the same job because you have to hire somebody. Maybe it's a master's or grad student, maybe it's somebody who is a part-time TA, whatever it might be. But often what you're paying for, certainly at the undergrad level, you don't always receive. And you start to think, am I paying for what experience? Because the drinking and excitement and the craziness and that doesn't change. That's still there. And I can tell you, regardless of how much you pay for college, your kids are still going to have that experience. Prepping them ahead of time and or deciding on the correct college for their personality. There's a lot of great colleges and universities out there that don't have that crazy, I don't know what, the Animal House, I guess?
Yeah, we call it the party school.
Yeah.
I mean, I had friends who went to schools that were very close. They were affiliated with mine. And they didn't have to study the amount of time that we studied. I mean, you could go onto our campus, you could drop a pin during the week, let's say, between Monday and Thursday.
Yeah.
Drop a pin on the floor in the library, and you could hear it because everybody was studying. You didn't hear dorm music blowing out. You did on Friday or Saturday, but then back again on Sunday, we were hitting the books hard.
Yeah.
No choice. But also, I remember coming into classrooms between my freshman and my senior year. We had anywhere from 30 to 100 kids, old desk, old furniture, old stuff. It didn't matter. It was still at the time, a very expensive education. Now that's a lot smaller class size. They have computers, high tech, new classrooms, all that kind of stuff to teach the exact same kind of stuff we learned.
Yeah, I
for a
don't
lot
know
less.
if you're seeing that kind of computer stuff in the freshman classes as far as size go. It'd be
Right.
interesting to see that. I have not heard that as an experience. Generally, it's still the big auditorium, the freshman English, 60, 70, 200 people, whatever it might be. And then the class size gets smaller, of course, as you get into your last year or two of college. But paying for it is still something that can cost you enormous amounts of headache, delaying your retirement, delaying moving for your family, buying a bigger home, smaller home, a car that is needed. All of the expenses that we go through our life, behind us here we have saving for college saving for a wedding. I want to cover that in a future show because we're starting to see weddings be tens of thousands of dollars. Really?
Yeah, and you have to do it twice.
Why?
Well, that's the average.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, everybody's getting married twice, right? Well, maybe at the end of the day, taking those dollars and buying something that might go up in value, like a primary residence or a rental home, might be a better use of those dollars. But you don't understand. It's my daughter, it's my son, it's the oldest, it's the youngest, it's the last. Everybody has a story. So we change our head and we put our heart up there and we kind of move things around a little bit, and then that conversation gets into a no-win situation. When it comes to financial decisions, I always write this on the board when someone starts to give me what we call hedging a little bit, kind of pushing back. Well, maybe that's in your world, Arif, but let me tell you, how, okay. There are three things. You cover a poor decision, a poor financial decision, and probably any decision for that matter, but you cover a poor financial decision in one of these three things: God, family, or the right thing to do. In other words, you say, well, I know, but it's the right thing to do. Well, what am I going to do? Say, do the wrong thing? As your financial counselor here, am I going to tell you, no, go against God? Oh, no, I've got an idea. Your family. No, not important. So you cover a poor financial decision, add value that may not really exist, and in fact, call it something that it really isn't, and then all of a sudden, you are the most righteous on the top of the hill, and who would ever say that borrowing that money from your 401k to pay off credit card debt is the right thing to do? You're like, Arif, but the interest rates. Well, let's do the math. Well, the interest rates. No, let's continue to do the math. A decision like that says, have you changed the habits that cause the credit card debt to be there? No. Then what makes you think stealing from your future is gonna change anything? It isn't, because you haven't changed your habits, you haven't changed your actions. It's the same thing whether we're spending money on college. Okay, we're used to always borrowing, maybe. Or we had a lot of money saved for our kids' college, but we had to use it for our company or small business. We had to use it to help, we got laid off of work, or we had to use it. Well, okay, that's a different story. You've created habits of savings, an event occurred, and now you're using it for other things. So if you have a habit of saving or investing or creating wealth, however you're doing that, those patterns of behavior, if you will, begin to develop into something that ultimately, hopefully, creates wealth. But if you are somebody who has excuses around your financial decisions, and listen, if it's you or your spouse, everybody knows that, right? You know which one of you does this, because in every family there's the saver and the spender. I've met a few that are savers and a few that are spenders. Spenders are usually on their second bankruptcy by the time they're 45. No joke. Just spoke to one yesterday. Serious. I think she's probably 47. Second bankruptcy.
See, I'm accused of being the spender in our
Yeah,
family.
yeah. I love spending money. That's my thing. My wife is a saver. When we got married, I came to the marriage with, I think, like $800 or $1,000 in credit card debt. She came with nothing, with more than that saved. I had savings, of course, too. We bought our first home. When we got married, we bought our first home. We didn't have a big wedding. Even when my sister was getting married on the very inexpensive side of things and still spent $12,000, when I got married, I spent less than around $5,800. So even so, at that time, we still did it very inexpensive. We found ways to reduce the cost here and reduce the cost. Still a great 200-person wedding, still at the Odyssey restaurant. We still had a great meal. My wife had a beautiful dress. All of that still existed on less than half of what the going rate was at the time. Why? Because I didn't want to spend money on a wedding. I wanted to spend money on a home. So here we are, 21 years old for my wife, 23 for me. We bought our first residence. Oh, Arif, it's so different today. Really? Think about how much your parents or grandparents or cousins, whoever's spending on your wedding. Think about how much you want to spend on your kid's wedding. What if you gave them as a down payment? It doesn't have to be a big house. Maybe it's a condo. But it's their entrance into the world of ownership. Of course, I want them to work for it too, but think about that, right? There's some options there when it comes to savings. We're going to be back in just a minute. Give you ways to maybe start paying for college, maybe kind of reduce that expense a little bit. Some options, some choices. I'm Arif Halaby on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour on AM 1220 KHTS.
Drugs is a price on top of a price. You pay for it with money. You pay for something you could have had, then you pay for it out of your life.
Heroin will kill you and crack will bring you to your knees. And crack brought me to my knees.
I'm going to stay with the program of recovery, and I'm not going to give up. I'm just not going to give up.
I'm Dan Sturkle, General Manager for Nissan of Valencia. If you like your money as much as the next guy, we say hold on to it. Here at Nissan of Valencia, $99 down delivers any new or used vehicle in stock. Hard to believe? Here's our disclosure. Blah, blah, blah. Total from you, $99. Oh, and blah, 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 on approved credit. Bankruptcies, foreclosures, late pays, hey, it's all okay here. We have tons of banks vying for your business. Nissan of Valencia, home to the $99 down delivers. Hope to see you soon.
Did you know SCV TV reaches over 250,000 people in the Santa Clarita Valley? SCV TV's sports and event coverage has audiences in the tens of thousands. SCVTV.com has nearly 200,000 page views a month, and no other Santa Clarita media outlet has more friends on Facebook than SCV TV. Can you imagine what it would mean to your business if your message reached all those people? If you need to generate more local business, or if you would like to uniquely position your company within the community, then consider SCV TV in your marketing campaign. SCV TV, the only local television for Santa Clarita.
Hi, we're back. Yeah, Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. I'm Arif Halaby along with Mark Murphy. Look, we're talking about getting an education, going to college, getting that formal degree that almost seems as if it's just a standard. You know, so many of our baby boomers, and even a little bit beyond, you know, still born in the late 60s, early 70s, have a thought with their children. They say, look, you are going to college. There is no option there. Is that the right thing to do? I don't know. It's a thing that my wife and I adopted. Our kids, they've never been given an option to not go to school, not go to college. Their option goes beyond. They can get a master's if they want, or a PhD, or that's fine. But a bachelor's degree is required in our family, right? That's what a lot of people think. That's what that's just part of life. You just have to. Why? Because just to compete and have a conversation and have a resume looked at, there has to be some form of higher education. Could be a trade school, could be a 2-year college degree with some great experience in the background. That is necessary. Getting a job out of high school, or certainly dropping out and getting a job, works for such a very small percentage of people that it's a difficult thing to probably even gauge. Can it work? Yes. Because look, when you get a job, especially when you're young, a high school diploma is looked at. I don't, if I'm hiring somebody in their 30s or 40s, I don't ask them, did you have a high school diploma? I don't know why. It just doesn't even come up. You know, the experience, the life experience, the previous jobs, the way they work with others, those kinds of things certainly matter a lot more. That's where that conversation goes, as opposed to what did you get on your 11th grade history test? I don't really care.
Well, I think there's been a change. When we were hitting the workforce, we had many friends who didn't go to college. I mean, it was a much smaller percentage. And so, yes, you wanted to go. I'm just, as I see today, where it seems like everybody has to go to college, and we see the percentage of graduates from high school is, I think it's something like 3/4, close to 3/4 actually will go into a college program. Now, not as many come out of it.
Right.
But at least they're trying to get some form of higher education. And yes, it could help them figure out what they want to do. Okay, be aware of that. You may be spending a pretty amount of debt, whether it's a 2-year or 4-year, finding yourself. Or maybe you get a technical or specific degree that can get you employment, whether you know you want to do it or not.
Let me caution you about some of the private schools out there, and I want to do this carefully because they have often very good programs. But let me just share with you, the cost of some of these programs are significant. The cost of some of these programs can drive you financially through the roof. Some of these 2-year programs, 4-year programs, private schools, the tech schools, if you will, make you sign a contract for the entire 2 or 4 years. We have a client dropped out, thought he wanted to be a computer something or other and programmer, repair, whatever it was. Signed up for this big tech program, saw the commercials on TV, people happy, hugging people. They get there and they go, it's not really what I do. I want to go back and help my family, my brother, with a muffler shop. He didn't finish the school, decided he wanted to do something else, but he still had to pay for the school. Now, that's different than going to a regular 4-year public or even private institution, where if you go, you pay, and if you don't, if you drop out halfway, you might still have to pay for some classes. But to pay for the rest of the year, 2, 3 years of the program only exists in some of these private charter type schools. So look at them. They have nursing programs. They have, dental assistant. They have computer tech type classes. All of those classes themselves, all of those programs, have a significant value. But are you paying too much for those? Now, look around. There's some community college and the cost is, a tenth or half at least of the program cost. But look at some other institutions. One of our clients teaches at a particular pharmacy tech in the city of Los Angeles. And that same pharmacy tech school, to be a pharmacy tech at like a drugstore or pharmacy or something, it is, somewhere in the neighborhood of hundreds of dollars to take the class versus thousands at one of these private tech schools. It's a City of Los Angeles school. I don't know if it still exists now. It did for many years, and just last year I think it was still there. So these schools existed. You would come certified with the same state certification, county certification, whatever, but at the end of the day, your cost to attend is hundreds of dollars, not thousands. And that is important, because a lot of the private colleges will emphasize, hey, but we can get you in now. And maybe for you that's the right move. But to borrow money to go to those kinds of schools, I want you to be very careful about doing it. Know what you're getting into. Take time to think about it. Sometimes it might feel like you're buying a used car, and you feel kind of pressured or that kind of. No. You sit there and you have a conversation, you take it back, you look at your options outside of that. Could be a better move to do.
Well, I think this is important to keep your eye on where you're going. As I entered college, they eliminated the degree that I wanted, which was to go into general management. And I always wound up in management, but I got a technical degree, accounting, which was something I could always use and could fall back on as a primary vocation. And today it's still one of the top 10 hottest degrees. Fascinating. It's been a top 10 degree for probably 50 years or more. But the issue was, it wasn't for me. But it was a foundation for everything else I did. And I think that that's important, that you at least find something you can hook into, but be aware. I was preparing to sit for the CPA exam.
Yeah.
If I hadn't been moved into other directions, I would have still sat for the exam. I was prepared for it. Many of our local community colleges, like COC, prepare you to sit for the certification exams. Doing that, that's simply smart business. That's a smart way to prepare yourself.
Having things under your belt that says you began something and you finished it, you have that stick-to-itiveness is very important. But when it comes to paying for college, the last thing I want you parents to do is to take from your retirement account. You've heard me say that time and time again. But I don't want you to borrow from your 401k or your retirement account or cash out an IRA to pay for your child's college. Even if it's some of these charter type schools, these private schools where you have to, you may not qualify for certain student loans, maybe they're not certified, maybe they're not credentialed, whatever it might be, or maybe they are, it's just they're not going to give you that much. You've got to find another way to do it. Have them work part-time, full-time, 2 jobs. I worked 3 jobs on many a summers. So they were all part-time. One was full-time, I guess 2 were part-time. But the point was, I had to help pay for my college, a majority of it myself. I didn't want to get student loans. That wasn't my thing. I never did get one student loan. Just wasn't just didn't think I could ever pay it back, I guess. I don't know. Like, really? $5,000 to, I don't have $5,000. I've never seen $5,000. Today, you know, that's per semester in some cases, if not per class.
Well, you got to be ready for it. And this thing I looked at is determine whether or not you can afford the interest on a loan. If you can't, work, get the jobs, get the grants, get the scholarships, get anything you can qualify for to reduce that dollar amount, and then get the degree that'll help you, or that prepare you for a tech or a regular exam or an associate's or a basic degree that'll help you get employed.
Look, I look at it this way. If there are 4 of us sitting in a room and we say, what do you want to have for dinner tonight? Or where do you want to go to vacation this summer? Do you understand that we will get 4 different answers? And yet we're tasking a 17-year-old, sometimes younger in some cases, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? I don't know. I want to see this movie this weekend, right? And that still might change when they get to the box office. And yet we're asking a young, oh, well, they've wanted to be a doctor since they were 4 years old. Well, really? Maybe they're that 1 out of 1,000 that stays with their career choice when they wanted to be an astronaut or wanted to be a teacher. Or not everybody stays with that career choice when they were young. And often it's because somebody else told them they should do it, or because mom said, or dad, or I don't know, my friends. And you heard Mark's story about his friends were taking CPA classes, so he decided, I'm going to go.
Yeah, my roommate.
Yeah, why not? Sounds good.
He'd done the research. I hadn't.
So I want you to be very careful about the dollars you spend at a 4-year school with a 16, 15, 17-year-old's decision on what they want to be when they grow up. Because you might say, they want to do X. Well, that takes the amount of colleges that you're choosing and narrows it down, right? Because there are some colleges that are better in that field than others. And so my wife came to Cal State Northridge because she wanted to be in physical therapy, and they were known to be one of the top physical therapy schools. She didn't graduate with a physical therapy degree. She changed her mind halfway through. So realize that those big decisions can wait just a little bit, get a bit more wisdom under their belt. Because the last thing I want you to do is to take money from your retirement account. Second, start saving early. Start saving early. Even if it's 12 or 14 or 15 years old, it's a year, 2 or 3 that you can get under your belt. And if they go to a community college for the first year or 2, that again lowers the expenses and pushes out another year and gives you time to save and gives you them time to work and put money aside. So there's 2 tips. When we come back, we're going to give you a few more. You're listening to Total Financial Solutions, Save for Money Hour, on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.
Today I'm going to talk about Patty. Patty's best characteristics, she's stupid and ugly. Everything she does is ugly. Watch her eat. Watch her stuff her face. Look at her, greasy hair, dirty fingernails. It makes me want to vomit. Get a life, Patty. Thank you.
Hey, Mike, give me another one.
The cost of one more drink, $4.50. The cost of a DUI, severe fines and loss of freedom, causing innocent loss of life, unimaginable. The value of acting responsibly?
On second thought, why don't you call me a cab?
Priceless. Drinking and driving are not worth the cost. Call a friend or taxi to get home safely.
Do you know how much water you use daily? A typical Santa Clarita Valley resident averages 270 gallons every day. You can lower your water number with simple adjustments to your outdoor watering. Replace a section of your water-guzzling grass with California-friendly plants. Reduce evaporation by watering at night or early morning. And set your sprinklers to run for 2 short cycles to avoid runoff. What's your water number?
Hey, your money, isn't that interesting? Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour, your place to learn how to manage money, get out of debt, plan for your retirement. I'm Arif Halaby, joined by Mark Murphy. Your family's finances. We're talking about retirement planning. We're talking about college. We get into a lot of these things because the foundation of your family's finances starts with habits. And often if one has saved for college, they've often saved a portion or something towards retirement because the habit of saving, living below your means, creating wealth, step by step, delaying gratification, right? Not just buying something and having a garage full of toys. How many times have we seen this in our financial practice where somebody has an RV, a boat, Harley Davidson motorcycles, Sea-Doos, more boats, that fishing boat, bass boat. You go, goodness, these are incredible. These are great dirt bikes. I love them. And then you take a look at their finances and they're broke.
Well, I remember I was hanging around some friends who had Harleys, and they were my age and slightly older, and a bunch of them were getting Harleys. And my wife said, "I'm going to take care of the bike for you." So for Father's Day, I get one of those Razor scooters, the kind you get to push.
Yeah.
This was a heavy-duty version that could handle the
handle
extra
adult,
weight,
right.
the adult weight and all that good stuff. And I looked at that and went, "Oh, thank you, dear."
Yeah.
But she was right.
She's like, "This is your way to break your neck on this thing."
So I saved a lot of money and saved all the rest.
Those are all wonderful toys and wonderful things. In some cases, it's a necessity if you use it for work back and forth. Certainly less gas than an automobile. But when you're looking at balance in your financial life, if college is important to you, then you will be saving. So where can you start saving? Well, I want you to start saving in places like a 529 plan, right? A 529 plan, just like a 401k. What is a 401k or a 403b? People might say, "I don't have a 403b, I have a TSA, tax sheltered annuity." Folks, they're the same thing. If you work for a school district, you have access to a retirement plan, and that plan is called a 403b. We set them up for our clients. We do that all the time. When you work for a for-profit company, you'll know of it as a 401k. So in the world, what does that mean? That's where you find it in the IRS code. You go down to 401 subsection K. If you were working for a for-profit company, you get to put money in a retirement account. You go to 403 subsection B, if you work for a school district or a hospital or nonprofit organization, you can have a 403B. So when you see a 529, it's the same thing. You go to the IRS code, 529, and there's some letters and stuff after that, I'm sure. So you come on down, 529. Hey, you can put money in post-tax money, so like the $20 in your pocket, into a 529 plan that is a state-sponsored plan, often accepted in most, if not all, other states. You can put dollars in. The underlying investment is often a mutual fund or a money market type account. You put money into those accounts, and then all the interest is growing tax deferred. And when your kids go off to college, so post high school education, you can pull that money out for qualified expenses, tax free. So the goal is to have money that goes in, have it grow in interest, and then that meets most, if not all, of your needs.
Well, you did this for me. I wind up with a very small gift for my children from grandparents, but still, it's a valuable thing, whatever the size. And so we took that money and you put that in a 529. And the great thing is we varied the plan based on how much time there was before the children went into college. And because of various actions taken, suddenly I'm watching those, I'm going, we're going to have that for 5, 6, 7, 8 years or more. Unbelievable how it's growing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And you can add to these plans too. You can put, some companies will allow $50, $100 a month. You can do a systematic where you're putting in monthly and then, I have an extra bonus or a tax refund, and write a big check and have it, $300 check, have it go in, $5,000, $10,000. The maximum per year is $13,000 from Social Security number, from me to my kids, from my wife to the kids. So that's $26,000 from husband and wife or mom and dad. So that allows the kids to receive big chunks of dollars and hopefully go towards their education, hopefully grows. There can be some risk. You can lose if you put it in an aggressive mutual fund stock market thing and it goes down, you could lose your money. So, or some, if not all of it, probably not all, but some. So you've got to be careful. Make sure you have time. Make sure, with Mark's case, it was done many years ago. So it's put in a place that there's a lot of time. So keep this in mind. The objective is to save money the best way you can, and a 529 meets that needs for a lot of people. Now, when we say probably, most likely, you're not going to have to save 100% of all 4 years of college, there are some other ways to put money aside.
Well, the thing to me is just remember this. You put it aside, you may end up using that in different ways. You may be using it to buy a car after graduation, buy a house.
Well, there are some ways to set aside dollars for that, but you may get scholarships, you may get grants, as Mark was saying. They may go to a 2-year college before. So it gives you more time and less dollars to have to spend towards college. So there are a lot of ways. Don't just think it's a $50,000 education or a $200,000 education, whatever it might be, that you have to save that much money. There's scholarships and grants along the way that can help reduce that cost. All right, we'll come back. We can give you some more tips for college. Remember, avoiding taking money from your primary residence. I don't like that. Avoid taking money from your retirement account. Big deals. All right, we'll be back in just a minute. On Total Financial Solutions Save for Money Hour, I'm Arif Halaby on AM 1220 KHTS.
How do you convince a 14-year-old girl that hair doesn't matter? When the diagnosis is childhood cancer, where can parents turn? CureSearch.org can help. It's run by doctors and scientists whose research has led to an overall cure rate of 78%. You're not as alone as you feel.
Have a banana. Eating well and playing go together like best friends.
You better believe it.
With the food pyramid, the bare necessities of living healthy are easy.
Bare necessities, the simple bare necessities.
So eat right. Be active.
Now move and sit.
And don't forget to have fun. That's the way to be the best.
You're lots of fun, Baloo.
At anything you do. You can go to mypyramid.gov to play some games and find out more.
Hi, I am Cesar Milan with Junior. In Santa Clarita, we love our dogs. And in our role as pack leaders, it is important that we do everything to keep our pets safe and healthy. This is why it is so important to license your dog through Los Angeles County Animal Control. Licensing your dog will make it possible for them to be returned to you in case they get lost or stolen. You will also get important reminders when your dogs are due for vaccination. Show your dog you care and license them today.
Hey, you're listening to Total Financial Solutions Save for Money Hour here on AM 1220 KHTS. You can reach us at 298-5487. So, Arif, what's next?
Well, okay, look, give us a call if you have any questions or comments on college plan. Maybe your story. Maybe you actually have more student loans than the national debt. The most I've seen, okay, ready for this? This is a good story. The most I have seen in college loans, and loans taken to live during this period of time, of course. It's not just spent on college, but college that was, and the loans that went with it. You have a lady who became a nurse, RN, a master's, and then I want to say a doctorate. I think you get a doctorate in nursing. So she went all those levels. So you have all of that was done on student loans. Husband, undergraduate, came from a foreign country, so he paid out-of-state tuition. All of undergraduate, applied for medical school, didn't get in the first time, so decided, I'm going to go get my MBA. Goes to school for a couple years, gets his master's in business. Applies for medical school again, gets accepted, and goes through that whole course. So you have numerous educational things. Over about 15 years, I think is what it all turned out to be. Nearly $1 million. $1 million.
$1 million.
His income is $180,000 a year. Not bad as a doctor, right? 180. Mm-hmm. Do you realize that they can barely afford to drive an old car and live in a condo? I mean, it doesn't even exist as an option really for them. Now, they've had 2 children now in the last many years, 5 years or so. They've been barely paying the interest on some of these things. She now doesn't work. She's a stay-at-home mom with the 2 kids.
I feel a lot better about my situation.
Yeah, it was an enormous amount of student loan debt and affiliated debt that, for living expenses and other things, grants that came in were some, but never enough to make a difference to where you now have a significant amount of dollars that I think will never be paid off.
Well, and we have to keep in mind, too, with the current government programs where most of the student loans are coming from the federal side, bottom line, you're going to be paying, hopefully, only 3.5% interest. It's a possibility that could jump to 6.5% under the wrong timing. We just breathed a sigh of relief recently when it did not.
Yeah, we're at 6.8 with some of the new loans, some of the old ones.
And keep in mind, look at that interest rate, and you cannot get out of that debt.
Yeah, it's something where they now have an income-based repayment plan. It's called an IBR. We are now one of the companies in Southern California, I think there's 4 of us or so, that have been slotted to help with a transition in 2 pieces of paying off these college student loans. Well, actually, it's about a 4-piece program. We're responsible for 2 or 3 of those pieces, depending on how you look at it. The first one is someone now is still in school, but could be out of school, and they're in a repayment plan or getting ready to repay. Could be in deferment. There is a formula where you input the amount of money that you're making, the interest rates, the amount of student loans you have, what you originally had. You put it into this little formula calculator. It says your payment is $375 a month. Okay. It's also how many people are in your family. So if you have a husband or a wife that both have student loans, and maybe one is working and one isn't, or both of you are working, it doesn't matter. That's a very important calculation for the formula. You put it in, and it says, okay, your payment is $500 a month, not the $900 or $1,200 a month that it might be. So we can reduce that payment right off the bat. Then what happens is it's a 20-year program. So you are in a position to work for 20 years as you're doing that. At the end of 20 years, it is forgiven. So the federal government says whatever's left, maybe most of the balance, maybe some of the balance, maybe you barely paid interest, because there may have been times along the way where you had children and your income went down, so you kind of hit on both sides of that spectrum. And now what ended up happening is your payment went to 0 for the next few months or year. So you may not have even paid the interest, and at the 20-year mark, it is forgiven. It's nice, isn't that nice? Really, yeah?
At 20 years.
And then what happens? You get a 1099 in the mail. Now, what is a 1099? It says you earned, i.e. you have to pay taxes on whatever amount is forgiven, at whatever current tax rate you are at that time, which is presumably a higher income than you are now, which means a higher tax bracket. If you have not seen our debt in the last 3 or 4 years, we've doubled or tripled our debt. So we have an enormous amount of debt in this country, so somebody has to pay for it, so they're probably going to raise taxes. You can expect that. Even if you took all of the tax, all of the money, 100% of the money from, quote, rich people, you wouldn't even pay, I think it's 14% of the debt. So do you understand they're going to have to raise taxes on the middle class? You cannot help it. And
Arif,
if that's you, you're going to pay more taxes.
You're sitting there with 20 years have gone by. You're right at that age where you should be in your ramp for retirement, your final drive. And you're going to pay between 20 and 30% tax on what could be $30,000, $40,000, $50,000.
State and federal, by the way.
And you owe it. You owe that tax.
Pay up.
Wow.
Or enter a payment plan that has its own onerous fees and interest.
This is not something you can do on your own.
We have a solution to that. We have an incredible solution, and we're one of those companies that are slated to do it. You can always give us a call at 753-9683. That's 753-9683. We can do a review. We'll know in about 10-15 minutes if we can help you with it. If we can, great. If not, then there are other options that the government may have for you. 753-9683. Or you can go to hometownstation.com and just click on Total Financial Solutions. This is your Safer Money Hour, Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. I'm Arif Halaby on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHDS.
Gold, gold, gold. The newspapers screamed gold when James Marshall pulled his famous nugget out of John Sutter's mill. But did you know that wasn't really the first discovery of gold in California? The year was 1842. It was Francisco Lopez's 40th birthday. California and the Santa Clarita Valley were still part of Mexico, and Francisco had studied mineralogy at the University of Sonora. He was up here in Placerita Canyon running cattle while he scoured the valley for gold. One afternoon, he took a little siesta under an oak tree just east of the 14 freeway and dreamed of striking it rich. Well, guess what? He awoke from his nap, dug up some wild onions, and right there, clinging to the roots, were chunks of gold. Next day, Francisco sent off his gold to the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia, where it was found to be almost pure, 916 fine. The Mint report makes it the first documented discovery of gold in California, and it sparked California's first gold rush, too, when 2,000 miners from Mexico proper descended on Placerita Canyon 6 years before Sutter's Mill. Want to learn more about Santa Clarita Valley history? Click on scvhistory.com or stop by the Saugus train station in downtown Newhall, weekends 1 to 4.
Hi, I'm Howie Mandel.
I'm Sally Field.
I want to introduce you to a very special place.
Lark Ranch began almost 50 years ago. It was started by a group of visionary parents who were not willing to accept institutional surroundings for their developmentally disabled children.
Lark is a unique facility with a community of individuals who are all special and contributing members not only of Lark, but of the larger community of Santa Clarita.
But they need your help to maintain this outstanding program and continue to deliver to its residents the kind of care that will help keep Lark Ranch operating for another 50 years.
Please give generously.
And let's continue the miracle of Lark.
Explore new worlds. Read. Visit literacy.gov.
All right, your hometown station. I'm Arif Halaby along with Mark Murphy on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. We're talking about ways to pay for college, some of the differences when it comes to setting aside money, making sure you're not really ending up at the end of the day with more debt than you expected. You know, most of the time the difference in education versus formal bachelor's degree and not is maybe just a few $1,000s a year. After you pay taxes on that money, what's left, that's what you get to pay your student loan payment with. I mean, you understand that. So the more money you make, the higher the tax bracket you are, the more you have to work to make that same payment. So you have to be careful. Most people don't realize this. When they go to buy a car, they go, oh, I make $25 an hour, I buy a car, it's this much. No, no, no. You don't get to keep $25 an hour. Maybe you get to keep 15 or 16. And so the rest goes to the government. Because remember, as we heard recently, if it wasn't for the government, you wouldn't have a small business or a job. Government takes care of us, as you've heard.
The bottom line is, if you are not planning in terms of tax and what the implications are, and particularly on how to work out these student loans or the various programs, you need to plan and sit down and figure out how are you going to handle your kids. Are they going to be separate from you? Or are they going to be with you? It's going to be, there's medical involved in this. You've got to be considering that. There's insurance, there's payments. You have to work out a major plan and start thinking it fast.
I want you to do your best to end up with no student loans, really. I mean, that's the idea, right? Okay, so there are often times when you can receive tax breaks. We've talked about that in the past. Certain tax breaks, both in tuition, so getting a job and working, where we are part of a plan to help eliminate some of your student loan taxation issues later on, because that's what's going to happen, right? You're going to, oh, my loan is forgiven. No, 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 it's taxable, folks. You can create a way to pay that tax, to offset it so it doesn't impact your family's finances. You can always give us a call at 753-9683. We're happy to walk you through that and see if it's right for you. But one of the other things I want you to look at is there's a 10-year program. And it says, well, if you work in one of these fields, basically like a public safety field, police, fire, nurse, I think doctor, in certain industries, teachers in certain areas maybe, where what you're doing is if you work in that industry, and so your education takes you, you get a degree, you now work in that field for a period of time after 10 years, then the government will forgive your loan as well. Now, just think of it though. If they're going to forgive your loan, is it taxable? You didn't know that, right? They forget to tell you that dirty little secret. And the answer is yes. So there are things you can do to help prevent that from coming down the road, and we can solve backwards and fix that.
Well, you got to plan on that, because that's exactly how my wife and I went through our program as we did it with the military. But part of it is to find someone to fund your education. And I see those same scholarships, those same opportunities that even we received 20, 30, 40 years ago. Many of them are still available, or there's even more. And you need to sit, get the plan, work it out, and know how this all ties together. Otherwise, you're going to wind up with nothing.
Yeah. You may receive a tax break. You know how I said you go to work and you get that money, you got to pay taxes on it, and you pay the student loan. The interest part of the student loan, so that equation stays pure, but The interest part of your student loan, you may get a tax break on. I think it's up to $2,500 a year. Check with your CPA, your tax advisor, see kind of where that fits. But the key of understanding how to pay some of that back as fast as possible. Avoid the forgiveness program if you can. If you cannot, then you better get it and do it right, because the last thing you're going to want to do is end up with a huge tax break at the end. It's called the income-based repayment plan, IBR. It's for your college student loans. You can always give us a call at 753-9683 or go to hometownstation.com, click on Total Financial Solutions. Thanks for watching us on SCV TV and listening, of course, on your hometown station. This is AM 1220. I'm Arif Halaby. Every week at this time, special guest Mark Murphy all week long. Love it, Mark, or all month long, I should say. Wonderful to have you. Thanks for listening on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.